All right, man, peace. So for those of you brothers who've been on my channel for long enough, you'll know that I will oftentimes bring up the sentiment of a quote-unquote all-black police force to police the so-called black community. And I don't touch on this sentiment because I think that it's a realistic option or it's something that will ever truly happen in this society, because it will not. The reason why I bring it up is just to create a paradigm within the minds of many of you brothers that listen to my channel to view yourselves as officers, to view yourselves as administrators, to view yourselves as leaders, to understand that you have the mental capacity to be an arbiter, to be a judge, to be someone who can preside over issues and not be a problem causer, but be a problem solver. And that's truly what it's all about, having a ruling class mentality. When you read 1 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter and the 15th verse, it tells us that he that is spiritual judgeth all things, but he himself is judge of no man. Meaning what? When you operate according to a ruling class mentality, when you put the Most High first and the Most High imbues you with that spirit of wisdom and understanding, you can discern what's going on around you. And once you have the ability to discern what's going on around you, you have to evaluate what's going on around you and use that gift to assist other people. When you read Isaiah, the 1st chapter, and I believe the 17th verse, it tells us to seek judgment. In the so-called black community, we have that segment of our population that likes to maintain that chaotic paradigm. That's why they love to rant and rave about not judging anyone or anything. In any orderly environment, we have to have judgment. And that's why I like to push and promote that energy of the black police force. Because once again, it's not going to happen in this society, but the so-called black man has to view himself as an officer within his home. You have to be the one to preside over all things so-called black, man. That has to be your mentality, man. You can't leave it in the hands of the other races. We have to stop looking at the so-called white man as a proverbial father figure that we're resentful towards. And our people refuse to acknowledge this. That's why that dynamic maintains itself. That's why it never goes away. Because our people, so-called black people in America, view the Caucasian man as a proverbial dad, and the so-called black woman, especially the liberal black woman, views the Caucasian woman as a liberal mom. And they will deny it. They will refute it to the best of their ability, but it's the truth. That's where the liberal black female gets most of her feminist ideologies from. She gets it from the liberal Caucasian woman. I've stated this a very long time ago on this channel. Behind every liberal black is a liberal Caucasian, particularly a liberal Caucasian Jew, who's making sure that that so-called liberal black is puppeting what they're being told accurately. And when they stop doing so, they get removed. Why am I bringing all this up? Because there was a former football player, professional football player by the name of Brandon Albert, who was arrested for shoplifting. They tased him, but he was so strong that he was able to pull the taser out of his body. He fell to the ground, and he was arrested without incident by 3 black police officers. And you're going to see the resident liberal Negro, Van Lathan, finally admit and acknowledge something that I've been stating for a very long time. That the so-called black man needs to be the one policing his own communities. We have to let go of embracing that criminality consciousness that's so popular in the so-called black community and start to embrace presiding over our own. The so-called black man has to have the mindset of presiding over his own. Like I did a video on why is lesbianism growing in the so-called black community, and I had a liberal black female attempt to address me by using the same hackneyed and predictable lame-brained liberal black female attempt at a response to try to obfuscate the issue. Oh, any black man who's worried about lesbian just because he's gay. And why do they do that for? Because they're trying to promote chaos. So-called black men, whenever many of these demographics that are your enemies see you start to approach towards light, they're going to try to pull you back towards darkness. And you're going to see that mostly from 2 demographics, the liberal black female and the white trash Caucasian. And I specify liberal black female and white trash Caucasian because the functional elements of those 2 demographics are not going to be concerned. That's why we have to make sure that we have our minds properly attuned on what we need to do and stop trying to change these other demographics. Stop worrying about them. We have to worry about ourselves. But anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Evan here with Van and Michael J. Babcock. This is crazy video. This video came in of, I guess he's a retired NFL player now, Brandon Albert. 6'5", 315 pounds. The dude was a monster.
Former
played for
Pro
the Kansas
Bowler,
City Chiefs, Pro Bowler.
Huge.
He's a big dude.
Dude was a good player.
There was an incident with him back in February where cops were called on him at a jewelry store in Atlanta because people in the jewelry store said he was bashing the wall and threatening people in the store. So cops came. When they got there, they say that Albert, they tried to get him to just surrender, but he didn't. He tried to get physical with police and run out the door. Yeah, it got crazy. So they hit him with a taser, and he ripped the taser out of him and continued to try to scrap a police, allegedly. At least that's what was in the report. And now we have video of the incident, and it's pretty true to what the report says. So here,
To be quite frank with you, this brother's very fortunate to still be alive.
So here's the video. It starts as police try to take Brandon into custody. Take a look.
Hey, get down, bro. Get down, bro. Get down, bro. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down, bro.
Now, did you brothers hear what this brother just stated? He asked the police officers, "What did y'all do to me?" You know what they did to you, brother. They did what they had to do to incapacitate you because you were a threat. And you were very fortunate that they did not fill your chest and your head with bullets. You should be happy that all they did was tase you because of the anarchy that you were trying to cause in that jewelry store.
Yeah, cops put him on the ground. They put handcuffs on him. They ended up taking him to custody. He was arrested. And
The real question is this brother suffering from CTE? Is he having an issue with his finances? One has to wonder this because I would think that if he was there to rob the place or steal jewelry, that he would have utilized more subterfuge, more cunning, some type of craftiness, as opposed to banging on the walls and allegedly, according to Van Lathan, punching a hole into the wall, to the point where he had worked himself up into such a fervor that when the cops arrived, he was unwilling to comply with them. And brothers have to understand this. And I get into conversations about this issue with so many so-called black people who are always trying to judge how they're treated by the police with how the Caucasian is treated by the police. Brothers, when you're in captivity, the standards for you as a captive are different than they are for the jailer and whoever he's complicit with. And I can't stress that enough. And to be quite frank with you, I don't think that it's that laborious to be a decent person. I really don't. Unless you're that plagued by demons. It doesn't take much wherewithal to say to yourself, I'm in a jewelry store and they tried to swipe my credit card or my debit card and it was found to not have enough funds. I'm just going to leave. It could be that maybe he felt embarrassed that they told him that he would not have enough funding to purchase whatever item he was trying to purchase, and he felt the need to show out. Because a lot of affluent Negroes like to move down to Atlanta. Atlanta is viewed as the new capital of Black America in this country, and they like to make a show of things. And possibly he may have been embarrassed by what may seem to him to be a very precipitous fall from grace. Who the hell knows? Either way, the brother should not have made such a jackass of himself because he easily could have ended up dead.